Alright, here we're going to be talking about exactly what you need to be looking for when you're translating equations into words and words into equations. So when we're going from an equation to a sentence, there's a lot of options that we have. We can say this plus one part of this a lot of different ways. We can say you're adding one, you could say plus one, you could say the sum of this thing and one. Here we're just looking to fill in the blank. It says y equals, that's this part, y equals something times a number, that's 3, times some number that we don't know yet, that's the variable part. And it's blank by 1. It's increased by 1. The comma helps separate our terms. This is the first term, the 3x, plus 1, that's separated by this comma. We could also say that a bunch of different ways. We could say it's plus 1, or 1 is added to 3 times some number. On the second one, there's really two ways that this equation is being changed from the sentence. So it says 5 blank then a number is equal to y. So we see that the y is at the end of the sentence, but it's at the beginning of our equation. We're allowed to flip an equation. We could put this part, the x minus 5, on the left side and the y on the right side. We know that they're equal, so we can flip them around and they're still equal. And that's what the sentence is showing, that it doesn't really matter if we put the y is equal to in the beginning or at the end. It's really the same equation. The second part, we see that 5 is actually at the very beginning of our sentence. It's coming before the number part, and it's really just because of the way this is written. 5 less than a number says that we're starting out with some number. We're starting out with this x. And it's 5 less than that. 5 is being taken away from that. It's x, some number, minus 5. It's 5 less than that original number that we started out with. So some English words and some English phrasings just tell us that we need to flip our terms around. Less than, more than, subtracted from, or added to are all phrases that we need to look out for. From, then, and to are the 3 words that we need to look out for. Those all tell us that we need to switch those 2 terms. And it's always the 2 terms that it's directly talking about. It's saying 5, then we have our phrase that tells us to flip less than a number. It's the 2 things that are on exact opposite sides of that, 5 and a number. And they flip over whatever sign this is. Less than tells us that it's subtraction. So we're flipping directly over that subtraction. The x lands on the left side while the 5 lands on the right side. These 2 flip-flop. Nothing else really changes about this part of the equation. The third one, that one's straightforward. 3 blank a number, 3 times a number is y. Again, we see the equation flipping, but that's okay. We could have the 3x in front and then the y on the right side. It's the same exact equation. Next one says y is equal to blank less than. This is 4 less than. I see that word then, so I know they're going to be flipping. The 4 less than is going to come after this first term. It's 4 taken away from some first term, and that's 1/2 of a number. If you ever see this phrase of with a fraction, that means multiplication. It's 1/2 of this number. You can see 1/3 of some number, it's 1/3 times that number. So you can see that we have some options when we're going from an equation to a sentence, but when we're going from a sentence to an equation, we really have to translate it exactly as it says it, because there's only really one right answer. So the first one says y is equal to 6 less than 1/3 of a number. So we know that first part, y equals 6 less than 6 minus 1/3 of a number. 1/3 of a number means multiplication. So we're going to do 1/3 times some number. So we see this word then. That means we need to flip these 2 terms around. We're going to keep this together. 1/3 of a number is one term. It's 1/3 times x. We're going to flip that with this 6. The 6 is going to come after that 1/3 of a number. It's 6 taken away from 1/3 of a number. So we have 6 taken away from this 1/3 times a number. On the second one, we have the product. That means multiplication of 2 and a number, of 2 and some number that we don't know. That's 2 and x. And that's decreased by 3. And that is y. When we see that word is, that really just means equals. It could say is equal to, or it could just say is. Either way, it's decreased by 3, subtracting 3, and that equals y. And like I said before, we could just flip that equation around. We need to make sure that we keep this in the same order. It's 2x minus 3 here. This still needs to be 2x minus 3. It needs to be in that order. You don't flip the entire thing. We don't put the 2x at the end. We really just take this stuff and put it on the right side and take that and put it on the left. We need to keep it in the same order. 2x minus 3 stays in the same order. The third one says y is equal to 2 times a number. This one's very straightforward. Y is equal to 2 times a number. 2 being multiplied times some number that we don't know yet. That's 2x. 7 times a number, increased by 1, so 7 times x, increased by 1, that's adding 1, is equal to y. Again, we can write that in either order, 7x plus 1 equals y, or y equals, again, that same 7x plus 1, keep that in the same order. When we're translating these, we need to really look at this phrase carefully, less than or more than. If you see the word is in front of it, that's a completely different thing. That's saying it is less than. That's really saying an inequality sign. Anytime you see that word is, that's talking about an equation or an inequality. So if I say 5 is less than a number, that means 5 is smaller than that number. If I say 5 less than a number, that means I start out with a number, and then I'm taking 5 away from that. So 5 less than a number is subtraction. 5 is less than a number is an inequality.